Hi guys, how are you? Hope you are having a great time wherever you are, what part of the world you're in. I'm in my office right now. Actually, I'm in a field. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? I can feel sort of give you like an autumn feel because we're getting into autumn now. I can't even believe that. This year has flown by and so many things have happened that it's been a bit of a whirlwind. So I'm sure you feel exactly the same way. But I'm going to sort of take your questions now and probably ask you a couple of questions because it was things I think of afterwards, going, "I should have asked them that." Maybe they. But anyway, Claire Grace actually says, "How many, I've done charity work for a lot of years. What have I learned from helping other people?" It's interesting because um, we have a podcast, right? We've had this Peace Fund podcast since 2012, and we've done over 600 hours of radio. That's a lot of talking. I don't know how we do it. Um, but I think the one thing that is, there's two things actually that I've learned during this time. Apart from all the amazing people that give this time selflessly for others, apart from the kids that do some amazing stuff, one thing I've learned is that usually people don't um, really understand what it is to do charity work until they do it. I say that because a lot of people will go, I want to do something, but I don't know what it is, and let me just try this one. They get into it, and then they go, oh my gosh, that's really great, and they realize that when they're giving something to somebody, they're getting something in return, and that's probably the best feeling that they get. And I think that's really what is something I've learned is that people feel different once they've done it. I mean, I know I do. The going to Thailand and the baby respiratory rate that we do, and the school makes a difference programs that we've run. I mean, every time you see the kids in front of you and you're doing it, you kind of you're like, yeah, I've done something that is worthwhile. It has nothing to do with bills and work and fame and all that stuff. It's just something that generally makes you feel good. And I kind of think the other thing it's made me understand is that we as human people are made up of so many different things. We have five senses, or not five aspects, not senses, that we're made up of, and it's the intellectual, the physical, the sexual, the spiritual. It's the other one. I've got the other one now. But it touches the spiritual when when you're helping somebody else, because you're not doing it for you, you're doing it for somebody else, but you're getting something back. So there's nothing tangible there that you can actually put your finger on, but it's it really does reply to you. And I think that's why people have faith in religion as well, because, when, people believe in something and their hearts are there, it touches them somewhere that is not a physical part of them, but it's the spiritual side of them. So I think that has something really, really, what's the word? Touching. I think it's touching. I think it's really gets you really deep in your soul. Um, Actually, the other question was from James Gibson, who said, if I hadn't picked the path I was on now, what would I have picked? I have no idea. When I first started as a kid, I mean, I worked in a bank. You believe that? I actually, stayed and then I worked as a custom pricing assistant, which basically meant I did all the input forms for a pharmaceutical company, and that was a lot of stuff. And then I worked and got people jobs. I was a job searcher, or headhunter, if you want to call it. That in London, this small agency just off of Oxford Street, and that was an eye opener because that was really the first time I really got to see what people were like, and there was some really interesting people came out. I remember one chap came in one time, and he wanted to be an accountant. He came from, I want to say, Angola or Ghana or somewhere, I can't remember where, and his teeth were filed. So his teeth were actually like these. And I was like, okay, I'm not so sure the presentation at first, so you have to change, how you present somebody. They've got all this qualification, because literally when you look at somebody, that's half the reason you get a job. Especially in my business, it's what you look like is part and parcel of getting the job. If you don't You know, a lot of the time today in TV, you have jobs that you look at people and go, well, they're not that good of an actor, or I don't see them in the role. It's because they looked good. You know, WB is very big on that. You know, young, good-looking. You know, it's going towards a demographic that wants to see that. And you know, I think the more and more of an issue, that there's an issue here, because I've actually been watching a program called Social Dilemma on Netflix. I advise you to watch it because it's a very eye-opener as to the state of our lives today and how social media has not just taken over our lives, but it is affecting us as people. And it's kind of scary, actually, because, you know, there have been Senate hearings on this. You know, Zuckerberg went to a state Senate hearing, and even the senators said, you know, I'm an older guy. This one guy said, I'm an older guy, and said, what you're telling me right now scares me, because I know I'm not going to be around that much longer, but other people are. It scares me. And he has a right to be scared, because you should see what it does. The polarization of this country right now and around the world is destabilizing democracies. It's changing the way we deal with people. One very big, one of the guys on there who used to be, I mean, these guys that are talking on this documentary are basically guys that came from Yahoo, Google, Facebook. These are all senior engineers, senior VPs, all these guys. They originally said, when I first started doing this, I thought, you know, we were doing something good, but it's kind of changed now because it has nothing to do with the human part of it. It has to do with AI. And AI, what AI does, it teaches you, it says, okay, you've searched for this, therefore I'm going to give you this information. It doesn't give you any of the other information. So if you search on Google, and Google is the one thing that spies on you 24/7, I would suggest you get another web browser and find there are other web browsers out there that don't do it, and I'm going to change mine, because what Google does is spies on everything, and the AI intelligence says, okay, if everybody on this call searched for swords, you would get swords, and then the next tag on it would be different. It was swords that kill, swords that harm, swords that are cool, swords that, because it's based on the search that you've done. So what it's done is it's constantly pushing you into the direction of something you might have searched, but you're not getting the full picture. You're only getting a slice of the picture that AI thinks you should be looking at. And that's causing us a problem, because we are so polarized in this country and around the world that one country is talking about this and that. And, you know, you're not getting the full information. So I think that's, to me, I think that's a dangerous point to be in. I don't know why I went off onto that, but it's something I've looked at. I think is very important to think of at the moment, because, you know, we're not all going to be around, but our kids are, and I want my kids to be, you know, in a safe environment, or to understand the environment that they're going to be living in, and how do we change that. So there's a lot of different things there. So, you know, how do you guys feel? How do you guys feel about the social media? Have you seen it change your lives? You know, I'd be interested to hear what you think, because, you know, I think it's, I'm using social media now to do this, to show you, you know, talk to you about my career, the sword experience and all that stuff, which is great. But then there are opinions, and it's a different thing. Have you ever seen it affect people? Have you ever seen kids that are so engrossed in it you can't get them off there? Because it is an addiction. And in this program, they talk about it being an addiction. And some kids are on it 24/7. Parents that give their kids an iPad or a computer is basically conditioning them to be on this thing, and then they're going to be getting all this information. And you have teens today, which one of the biggest problems we have is depression, and it's in teens, and it's suicide rates go up, because social media is telling them they should become something or behave or look like a certain way, and that really is causing them to think, oh my gosh, I'm not this, I'm not good enough, da, 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 da. And you have teen suicide, you have teen depression, which means more drugs. So it's a whole cycle. So I'd be curious to hear what you guys think. In the meantime, I've got a question on the sword experience. Thank you for that. Olga's actually saying, any tips for training on freestanding bags? You know, one of the things we do when we do the sword experience academy, we have another one coming up in Maryland soon at the end of October. And I'll talk about that in a second because we really have gone into social distancing and how these events are run. But we do use bags for understanding the pressure that you use when you actually are pressing through to make you understand where your grip is. So on a freestanding bag, it's not just a question of wailing at it. The reason why you would use a bag would be to see how you would swing at a bag, right? And watch yourself doing it when you're actually hitting the bag. Then take the bag away and see whether you're using the same swing and whether it's in control or not. Because a lot of the time when we swing at a bag, we go all the way through. If you take the bag away, you'll be swinging all the way around here like this, which means you've just lost control. What you need to do is swing the same way with your body, but be able to control it so you've got the target, so you're touching that target. Because you might need to swing at somebody, and you might want to change direction and cut them in a different direction. But that is really your control. The other thing it does, another test, is to freestanding bag, is to feel what it's like to be able to, if the boken is like this, what it's like when you're pushing on the boken, how it feels with the angulation. Are you hitting it from here, from this part like this, or are you pushing down there, which now means you're actually activating the tip. So you're pushing down on the bag, and you can feel the way you're pushing down. And then that means your arms are getting involved. You're not just doing it like this. You're actually extending like this, which means the extension of the arms, when that happens, you'll feel that extension as you're doing it. So that's another test that you actually do on a bag. I think that's a tip. It's harder to tell you than to show you. But we did that at the very last Academy event. Any of you that came to the Academy event in Los Angeles, that's one of the things we did. I did with Mark Makita, who was there. I had Michael Cheney, who actually said, how do I prepare for acting with animals, horseback? How do you prepare to acting with animals on horseback? That's what I want to know, because animals are their own thing. They don't take stage direction very well a lot of the time. Some do. Some like sit, stage, and they're kind of trained puppets. But the thing is that animals, you have to understand, they may have their own ideas. So you have to understand the animal first of all. Is this an animal that is flighty? Do you know what its triggers are? I had one horse one time that literally I could kick the hell out of it to make it move, and it would hardly move. The minute we put spurs on it, it shot out the gate. So you had to understand what triggered that animal. Is this an animal that likes to go through grass? Does it, I always, whenever I go to a horse, I always go and pet the horse, talk to the horse, so the horse kind of gets to understand me. When you get on the horse will immediately go, okay, this guy knows or doesn't know what he's doing. And will then try and persuade you to go in a different direction. But you've got to be, most people are scared when they get on a horse. Like, oh my God, the horse is taking me. No, you're in control. And I think that's the whole thing. You have to make sure that your feet are flat. It's like you think you're putting on a brake on a car. The minute you do this to the stirrup, it means the little horse will feel that you know what you're doing. The minute your feet go into this direction, that means you're not in connection with the saddle and the stirrup. Therefore, the horse goes, well, I can go and do what I want. That's why you have a bit in the horse, so that the bit will hold the horse. And I've had a lot of horse accidents. That sometimes, we've had things where we've dealt with helicopters or we've dealt with fire, and you have to know that these horses are trained in those situations. And in one case, we actually, on Highlander, had a situation where we were doing, it was the Cossack episode, where we had these bales of hay. The director, Denny Berry, wanted to burn the hell out of the set, so we decided to do that. However, the idea was that you would, I was going to get on the horse at the end of the Cossack village being slaughtered, and I was saving the life of this woman who was jumping on the back of my horse, and I'd ride off into the sunset. Well, the sunset actually ended up being pitch black into a very uneven ground that we were working on. And when they lit the hay, it was instead of it being straw, it was hay, or the other way around, I can't remember which, and there was wind. So what ended up happening when they did it and they had the initial take, there was embers in the air. So the horses freaked out because all this stuff was going in the air. So what they did was, they said, Dennis was like, we have to get the end shot, and what we'll do is we'll do a close-up on the horse, and just you getting on it, and then once you're on it, we'll hold the horse's reins, we'll get the stunt woman on the back for you, and then you can just ride off. Okay, well that sounds all well and good in theory. When we did it, I got on the horse, got onto the horse, got there, had the, and below it is the stunt guy holding the reins of the horse in the front, and they're shooting, so you couldn't quite see the horse's head, so you couldn't see him holding the reins. And the stunt girl got on. The minute she got on, he didn't wait for her to set. He let go. The horse bolted, literally, into the dark. We're now at full speed. I've lost the stirrup. I've got the girl on the back was hardly holding anything, and she's shouting, "Stop! Stop! Stop him!" I'm trying to stop him. I was pulling this horse so hard, and eventually I got him under control. But anything could have happened because we were on this type of. So, you know, a lot of the time things happen that you don't expect. But you have to, you know, really sort of get to understand the horse or the animal that you're working with. I've worked with a bear before. That was kind of interesting. You know, this bear is 450 pounds. And it, you know, didn't want to come out of its trailer. Well, no one's going to argue with that thing, is it? But he came in, and again, it was on Highlander, and he liked a certain type of, he liked chicken, you know, and the whole thing about honey and bears and all that crap, you know, it's... You know, you get this bear's like, I don't eat that stuff. I eat chicken. You know, so the idea was I had the chicken in a case in a jar, like we put the chicken in, pretending it was jam or honey, right? And I was supposed to roll it over this way into this direction, or into this direction, and the bear would go there, and we would go out the door. And they're doing a big wide shot of this. So the bear comes in, and this is a 450 pound bear. Okay, it's a studio bear, but or film set bear, but we, you know, I'm not going to argue with him. And there's three of us, and so I take the thing and I roll it. But what happens is when I roll it, instead of it rolling like this, it rolled like this, and it rolled towards the door. So now, literally, the door. Let's say you're the door, right? The bear is here. We've got to get out here. So literally, we're walking out the door. We creak, we creak, we creak. I get to the door, and I must have made a noise or something, and the bear went, and I went, and then he went back to eating, and I went out the door. But from that one moment, I was like, listen, buddy, listen, you can have it. Your chicken is yours. So you just don't know what happens, but you've got to be a safe. And most of the people, the wranglers, you know, swear up and down that, you know, their animals can do what they say they can do, but sometimes, you know, things happen. So, Sarita Ortling, hello, how are you, Sarita? You say you're in a wheelchair, and what exercises could you recommend for upper body? Anything that is that has a movement. You want to be able to move. There's a lot of stuff you can do in a chair. Like, for instance, now I'm doing this type of stuff, which gives you this, or anything above you, anything you're doing this way. The problem for you, if you're in a wheelchair, is that the mobility issue will get harder and harder, because as you get older, the ligaments will actually get tighter. So all the stuff all the stretches, a lot of the stretches we do during the stretches we do in the Sword Experience numbering the online portions, we did a lot of stretching, some for the lower body, but a lot for the upper body. We do one which is where we take the boat and we put it below us here, and we stretch here, which is good for the shoulders. We do another one where we reverse it and pull it this way, which is the other side of the shoulders. We take it this way here, which is good for the back of the arm. There's other things as well where you can take it up this way and lean it forward this way through here, stretching it out so that you're stretching your back. There are a bunch of those exercises. I can't show you them all here, but just so that you know, we are actually going to be releasing all the training videos that we've had online. We're reshaping a whole brand new Sword Experience swag bag store. The website's going to look different, everything else, and we're going to be releasing all the videos that we've done, the past 28 videos that we'll have. They'll be released on our site and all those exercises and that will be in those videos, which you can now keep. Whereas before we weren't letting people keep them because it was a you know, there was a lot of work we actually had to put into it to release these videos online. And it's like a trainer. If a trainer comes to your house, you're not going to sit there and say, "Oh, can I video it so I can go and do it again?" The trainer works with you for that period of time. You pay them the money, and it's gone. So the online portion was pretty similar to that. You know, the other thing that we've been, you know, we're trying to do a lot of different things at the moment because we want to keep you engaged as well as us engaged. You know, obviously our events have kind of dried up, except for October. We have 3. And I want to talk to you a little bit about those events because those events are going to be very different. We have about 2 places left for Pittsburgh at the moment, which is in about 2 weeks' time. That event is going to be really, really cool. You know, it's at a village that is deserted, so there's nobody else there except the Sword Experience. And we will be having everything marked off for spectators, for the participants, with temperature controls and washing down all the bokens prior, making sure you have hand sanitizer, making sure you're keeping social distance, your mask, etc. But we're going to incorporate that into the Sword Experience as well, because into the actual last event, because we're going to utilize this as if it's post-pandemic. This is a post-pandemic. We had it as a Walking Dead, but it's kind of the same. So we're thinking of this 10 years later, and maybe the pandemic's taken out most of the population in the world, and this is all that's remaining. So this village happens, and you know, we're going to have this fun thing. But we've got a number of people that we can do it, and the spectators will get involved as well because they'll be part of the villagers. So we're going to be filming all of that in one thing. So that's going to be kind of fun. But again, we're going to try and keep it as safe as possible. We also have Lakeland coming up in the middle of October. That's a Star Wars one. We actually have at a museum. Again, we have the whole backyard to ourselves. Nobody else is going to be there. Again, it's going to be all very well disciplined, very much like we did the Santa Clara event. I think we put out that online so that we made people feel as safe as possible. And then Maryland is going to be an academy event, which will be run very much like Santa Clara, where everybody, again, is separated. The difference between the academy event and the elite events is that the academy events really hones in on how to do something with fitness, with technique, and then the performance portion of it, we actually will have a portion there where you will actually be on a set this time rather than in a gym, which is what we've done a lot of times before in our academy events, where we've actually done it in a gym so that we could work the choreography in that. But now you're actually going to be working it on an actual site, so you can actually see what the hazards or the things you should watch out for when you're actually doing a choreographed fight on location. So that's that stuff. So as you can see, we're doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes right now. We're doing a lot of revamp, and we're trying to get the stuff together so that, because come December, January time, I doubt very much there'll be very many events going on, because our events are all outside at the moment because of safety reasons. So we want to make sure that people stay safe. So the indoors, until we get okays to actually be able to hold these indoors, we will be continuing to do them outdoors for most of the time. I may have another one, but that's coming up with testing that one at the moment for possibly later in the year.
Is Florida Tampa or Lakeland?
It's Tampa this time. It's not Lakeland. Somebody David just asked me. It's going to be in Tampa, which is a little easy to get to. It's at the Moseley Museum of Science and Industry, I think it is, MOSI. David will get me that information in a second. In the meantime, I've got a question to answer from Priscilla Manriquez, which basically asked, what was the production like of Slash of the Day? You know, it's interesting because a lot of people have done this Boss Bitch Challenge type of event, where we've actually took all the people that were instructors, or people that were from that instructor's school, and put this video together as a fun way to put something together. And we're going to do another one hopefully at some point. But the production of it was really, and we want to get you guys involved on the next one perhaps, where, you know, we'll put something together, but it will be if you look at Boss Bitch Challenge on YouTube, you'll see that they did something, and there are a lot of these types of ones out there where they actually get big productions. One guy's I've seen they've got special effects and all this stuff going. We have very minimal stuff to do there, but we reached out to all our partners and we said, hey, we got this idea. We're going to do it for fun. You know, you can get your school in front of everybody again, and just to get them going. And most of them said, yeah, great. So we sent them what the in and the outs were. So in other words, we said, okay, and we used the Sword Experience numbering system, and that's why it's important, because now I can say to them, you're going to be attacked by an SXP1, but when you do your last cut to the camera, it's going to be an SXP9. And therefore, the next person that comes in is saying, you're going to be attacked by an SXP9, and you need to come out of the camera for an SXP4, for instance. So we told them all that. That's how it went along the line. And, it worked pretty good. I mean, I think, it was interesting to see how all of it came together at the end. I was crossing my fingers to see if it would, but, it was, we took a month or two to do it, because the first time doing anything, you find all the pitfalls when you do things, and you have to expect something doesn't work. It's just the way it's going to happen. So, a couple of things. We actually looked at the beginning. The idea, I changed the beginning. It took me 2 weeks to redo the beginning, because I didn't like, and the notes we had when we first put it out to the team, they said, the beginning's slow. And I looked at it, it was like a minute and a half. So we cut it down to about 45 seconds, that whole intro of calling F. Brian McCash. And, so we changed that a little bit. And then it's so funny, if you look at it, I just came up with the idea of the dream sequence at the very last minute. When I came back into the office after having shot the opening section, I went, why not try that? So I literally took the iPhone and sat in a chair and did it myself. So that was me doing it myself and coming back out of it. It was all me doing that with my hand. So it was kind of last minute. So sometimes things work, sometimes, and they're not supposed to be great in productions. They're supposed to be fun. And so if you guys ever try anything like that, or if we ever get this together to get all the Musketeers and all the Sword Experience people, remember, it's about having fun doing that, and being as expressive as possible so that you can get the message across. Michael Cuprian actually says, what fight will we be doing in Tampa? Star Wars, what movie? I believe the movie was, I can't remember, I'll be honest with you, off the top of my head, because we were going to do this, we'll do probably the same one we did in Lakeland. But I think the more important thing to do is to take the essence of that fight and then put it into the Sword Experience numbering system, because this is where I found it works very well, is that instead of me giving you numbers 1 through 10 or 1 through 12 and learning those numbers and then learning the choreography, is that all the numbers that we do, the entire progression is the numbering system right from the start, from the minute you start doing fitness to the time you start doing technique, to then putting the performance together. That really is we'll only give you 4 numbers perhaps to work on, and then those 4 numbers will then be paired up into pairs so that you understand the sequence, and that way we can get that together. And you'll each have different things to do, because then what I have to do is I have to literally write a little script on it and see. I already know what I'm going to do the final fight. It's a really cool arena, so it's going to be. Every time now we do a story in it. So the thing about doing the Sword Experience now, I'm not a school in the traditional sense. I don't teach you Aikido. I don't teach you Korean swordsmanship. I don't teach you Filipino martial arts. I'm teaching you angulations. I'm teaching you the essence of what to do with a katana or any angled weapon for angulations. So my job is to get you interested in doing that, and your job is to then say, I kind of like this. It's kind of cool. Let me find somebody near me to actually be able to do this. And that's why we bring in different sword instructors that from different styles at events, so maybe people think, well, maybe I can work with this guy, and this is the type of style that I want to follow. So when we do the Sword Experience, I really hone in on the film side of it as well, apart from teaching you certain footwork, because footwork and angulation is the same through all sword work. So if you learn that basis, and that's what we're doing, working on the online portion, is really working on the angulation, making sure you know your target, making sure your footwork you're light and able to move. Not just for sword experience, but for everyday life. How do you bend over? How do you pick things up? All that stuff is really part of what we're doing on the sword experience, as well as learning to do certain kata moves so that you can transition that to a broadsword or something else, so that you go, okay, I know where the cut is. Doesn't matter whether you've done HEMA, you know, and you're needing your angulations and you want to strike somebody with all the force you're going. If you cannot target correctly, you're not going to be successful. If you don't know your amount of force that you're pushing when you're doing choreography, you might damage yourself or somebody else. So all those things are really the basics that you really need to look at the sword experience, and then have fun doing it by doing a sword fight, you know, one that you've seen on film, that we take from the things that you've already learned. So that's really, you know, at Star Wars, when we do the Star Wars one, you know, it may be somewhere along the lines of that, but I may change things. I might say to somebody, you guys, I want you to do this portion. I need you guys to come in and do the entrance and present what we're going to show everybody. There's different things. So everybody's going to have a role, and that's why the spectators now play a role in it, because it makes my production or your production a lot more interesting, because you see a lot of people. You know, today the one issue we're going to have in films is, you know, there are not going to be any more extras in films, or very few, or they're going to be all CGI'd in, because you can't have masses of people put together like this, you know, on film anymore, because first of all, it's unsafe at the moment, at present, and secondly, it costs too much money, even if they did try to do that and social distance everybody, all the extras, into different rooms, because I've seen the logistics of doing it, and it puts a budget of a movie or a TV show up 20 to 30%. It's a lot of money, because you've got to hire extra people to clean, extra people to wrangle people, extra spaces to actually put people in. So it's a lot more work to actually do. So, you know, the movie industry is scrambling. I know there are productions back out now and they're following certain protocols, but that's part of what it is. I said something at a lot of the Sword Experience Academy events, which I will continue to say, but it's also very relevant to today, and that is, for a species to survive, it has nothing to do with intelligence or strength. It has to do with its ability to adapt. Right? Today, we have to adapt. We can't say, well, okay, this is going to be over soon, I'm going back to what I'm doing. No, you can't do that. I can't do the sword experience, can't solely be an event-based structure. That's why we put all the stuff online. We don't know how many events we're going to be able to do. We don't know how many retreats we're going to be able to do anymore, or whether those retreats or those events are going to be the same. We have to adapt those events when we do them to a slightly different format. Therefore, our job is to follow company and government guidelines, as well as keeping people safe, and making people feel comfortable doing the sword experience events. And obviously online is another way of doing it, to keep your interest and to come up with different ideas. So what I'd like you guys to do, if you guys ever have ideas of how to push some of the events in a different direction, we'd love to hear about it, because we are changing. Sue has to actually ask me, what do I miss pre-COVID and anything you like during COVID? The great thing about, as I said, this is about adapting. What do I miss about COVID? Hey, listen, I miss being able to go to all these places and see you guys and put all these events on together. And though we were growing, last year we did the most events we'd ever done. We did about 26 events, I think it was, last year. And we'd done 22 the year before that. I think 20 the year before that. So this year I was really looking at bringing, maybe 30 type events, and obviously we cancelled the retreat and stuff. Can't do that. So what do I found during COVID? It allowed me and allowed us to create an online platform where you guys can actually learn something for not a lot of money. I mean, think about it. Right now, we've done 28 different events. That's basically, and it was $38 a month. In 10 months, if we did 10 months, it would be the same price. 10 months. it would be about $100 more than what our top event would be for one event. For one event. So in 6 months, you imagine it's 6 months. It's what 6 8 so 48. That's $220. I think it is in 6 months. You would have one sword experience in one day, and you'd have 6 months of training in that sword. That's why we put it at that, so that it would be affordable. And people go, okay, while this is on, I can do it at home. I can do things there. That's one of the reasons we did it. I get it. It's not the same as being at an event. It never is. We're also thinking of streaming it. So we're looking at streaming our events to bring you guys in as well, to be at the event and train with us while we're doing that. And but again, logistics, we're really looking at that. So again, it's changing things, but it's also making things, adding things to what we do. Because now if I put the online and the events together, there'll be a much bigger awareness, and you can do many more things with us along the way. So those are things, you know, we kind of change, and we're trying to change at the moment. But you know, we're not a huge company. You know, we have several employees from different parts of it, but you know, I have to pay those employees and keep the company running. So your support really helps us do that, as well as, you know, we also have the new T-shirt idea coming out, which hopefully some of you guys have put in your logos. The idea is to have a T-shirt. We will do the design. All we need are the words that go out there that you think the sword experience is about. It doesn't have to be long. Shorter is better. Like 3 words would be great, or a short sentence. So you guys choose the T-shirts you get, and you know, we're running this contest, so the 3 that we pick will get T-shirts of their own, and you know, the top one will get a little bit of an extra prize. But so we're trying all these different things, and hopefully they work. But Sylvanis, in the episode Double Jeopardy, you slipped into the rooftop pipe. Was that scripted or happened by mistake? And which one was Double Jeopardy? I've got to think of what.
Morgan. Character's name.
I've got to think. Listen, the amount of times I slipped. I tell you the one that really. There's several times I slipped. You know, if you see it slip on, that's the reality of film. And as long as you have the choreography down as quickly as possible, that's something that will happen that you might be able to rectify. I can't remember slipping in Jeopardy, to be honest. I can remember slipping in Homeland. If you look at Homeland, in the fight in the flashback with Campbell in the forest, and he's driving me back, I was going backwards, and I literally, there was a stump, and it caught me, and as he swung, I fell backwards. That was not scripted. So I saw him swing, and I just dropped down. You know, I was supposed to go back this way, but instead I went back flat on my back. So there are a lot of times that things happen that were not supposed to happen. Anybody got any others that they remember seeing? Any of you guys remember any of the others you see me slip? But that's what would happen in a real fight, right? That's what made it real. You know, if I do this type of thing, Anthony DeLongis, for instance, when we were doing Duende, it wasn't in the final cut, but we had, like, you know, kind of high heels type of. It wasn't the right type of shoes to be wearing on a surface that was relatively like a freaking ice rink at one point, because it rained. So he slipped and fell down and went down, and literally as I was doing a thrust, and because we'd rehearsed it, and because he's very good at Anthony, and because we trusted each other, and I knew what was going on, I'd done so many, I was able to pull that before he fell into the blade. So, but he slipped, he went down to the ground. So that happens. That's part of it, and I think that part of gives you the reality of a sword fight, in a choreographed sword fight, so it doesn't look real. Those little moments, whenever you're doing a fight, when you come to a sword experience event and you're doing it, don't think the most important thing is the actual sword work. The most important thing is actually the bits in between, how you're dealing with the person, what the reaction is, what you're doing. That makes it real. Because in a real sword fight, you don't know what's going to Brad Boland, did you like having your hair grown out for the series? How did it feel cutting it short? You know, when I first did the series, my hair was longer than this. It was kind of down to here because they were like, oh, you can grow it a little bit. But I mean, I literally had a week. So what they did, they put extensions in, and the extensions sucked. They really took my hair, twisted it like this, and put it into clamps all the way around my head like this, and then they sewed in the things, and that stuff just pulled the hell out of my hair, and I would have clumps of hair just coming out everywhere, you know. So the second year, I was like, yeah, I'll grow it. I actually like growing my hair out long, but I got to the point. It was my decision to cut it, not theirs. I said, you know, we need to do something, you know, where I can, you know, it's time to change. We were always trying to change things up on Highlander. Tessa's death, which is coming out of nowhere. Yes, she wanted to go back to France and spend more time in France. But the actual way it was actually delivered in coming out of the blue is very much what real life does to you. And Richie's death, which was the reason why Duncan cut his hair, very much like, and it was supposed to be reminiscent of the Indians who would cut their hair when somebody would die. MacLeod, having come from an Indian culture and lived with them for many years, would understand that. So that was one of the reasons he did it, was to cut that hair in a ritualistic manner. There was one scene we had, which was not put in the final, where, you know, you see me with my hair cut. I actually have a frame. It was a beautiful looking shot. The way they shot it was like in a dojo, and I'm kneeling, and I actually had it framed. Was the first day I actually cut my hair, and sitting there cutting it was kind of fun. I remember being in the trailer with Clarice, and who's the hairdresser? I can't remember the but we were then. She's like, "Okay, you ready?" Yes. Literally take the back of it like this first of all, and just took a big chunk of it, chink. So we'd have a ponytail basically, and then the rest of it was kind of shaped. But you know, and then we sold it for charity. It was like, if I'm going to do this, I want it to, you know, make sense for somebody. I want it to benefit somebody. And we raised some money for it, and then I think we did it again about 3 or 4 years ago, where somebody donated it back, and we were able to again sell it out, and actually have one of the hair ties on it as well. Some of you know that anyway. Michael Cheney's actually asked me how I would split my time between the sword experience and family and Peace Fund and everything else. It's really hard. You know, one of the reasons we changed things up on the online platform is to be able to deliver the things we say we're going to be able to deliver in a timely manner. Sometimes we're a little bit behind because it becomes so difficult to do. When I go off to act, you know, some of the things will have to go by the wayside because I won't be able to have time to do certain things, and that's why having all this online platform will give us the ability to constantly bring you more stuff while I'm off doing things that will require, where I won't be able to do a sword experience event. You know, the family, I mean, it's been much harder. It's why today's a Saturday. I'm in my office today. So, because during the week, sometimes it's necessary that I spend some time with my son, making sure he's doing his homework, or my wife and the baby, so that she can have some time to do other stuff. So therefore, it's changing my program around, and it's a matter of scheduling. I'm still behind. I still can't quite catch up because every time I do, something goes wrong. Right now, I have a 6 terabyte hard drive that I bought that now doesn't work, and I've dumped all my information on that hard drive. Now I have to get it off to send the hard drive back again. That's hours worth of work, which now so that's what you have to do is structure as much as you can so that you can move on to the next. I'm trying to restructure all the little bits. You know, you get to that point where you left your socks here, you've left this unpaid bill, you've left this, all that stuff. I'm trying to clear out of the sword experience, and not that we have socks lying around, but the sword experience and the house and that. So it's a challenge, but again, adapt. You don't adapt, you're just going to fall apart. So after this, I've got to do a couple of other things today before I go back, and hopefully get my son to play some soccer, because you know I'm I'm working with him playing soccer at the moment, so that's kind of it. Darren Hayes. Hi, Darren. How you doing? How's Ireland treating you? What changes have I noticed in the SXP over the years? What changes have you guys noticed? I think the SXP has changed vastly over the past few years because of what we offer, how we do it. If you notice, the very first ones, we were very rigid in how we, because I was trying to come up with what it was I wanted to do. And the sword fight at the end that we would always kind of put together had one way of doing it. Now we've adjusted that and really kind of making it a story. I remember the last Ireland event we had, we based it on King John and what was going on at that castle at the time about the beheading of a certain guy and what would happen if it had gone this way instead. So, we based that story around it. So now it makes it a little bit more fun for you guys rather than just performing the sword fight. And so that's changed it, as well as the fact that the way we deliver the event, the way I deliver the event now is slightly different. Yes, we have the workout, but it's all geared, as I mentioned before, now it's all geared towards the final product, the final performance, getting you ready for that in those 4 or 5 hours, getting you ready through the fitness, understanding when we're doing fitness, you're actually doing fitness for certain moves, right? For instance, we have one where we cut this way, we're turning this way, and we're cutting here. Well, that's a 10 to a 9, or a 10 to a 7, and then it goes a 10 to a 7 to a 10, and then it goes a 10 to a 7. So I'll use the 10 to a 7 in the actual choreography, so that you're already used to being able to do that movement. That's where that's changed as well as the academy. Obviously, that's a whole different thing because the academy really is an event where we're honing in just on fitness and just on techniques. We're really teaching you the sword experience, numbering system, and different things such as how the strength of a strike is and how the precision of a strike. We cut paper. We do a lot of different things in the academy events. So they're different events. And that's how the sword experience has changed. And again, online you can see we've delivered our videos from the beginning to the videos now are different. And that's how I think how it's evolved. Michael Kuprian, did Roddy Piper break blades on a set of Highlander? Hell yeah, he did. Roddy was a big guy, wrestler. Loved Roddy. So sad to hear of his passing a couple of years back. He was swinging I think it wasn't a broadsword, I can't remember what it was, but it was similar to a broadsword. And I remember talking to Bob Anderson, saying, listen, Roddy, when we're doing this particular parry, it feels really weak, given that he's really swinging it. And Bob was like, no, it's a good parry, it's a good parry, it's a good parry. And I think it came out in the dailies that he swung at this one point and it just snapped. A piece of blade like this went straight through the air. And bing, bing, bing. I'm like, Bob, I told you, can I change that parry now? Because it was a weak parry. Just the way it was set up was a weak. I think it was an inverted parry, which meant I didn't really have much strength on one hand with it. Coming underneath it would have been stronger for me. And Roddy had not pulled the punch. He was really swinging through it. I can't remember if he actually split my finger open at any point. But I was always split open, so I can't remember if he was one of the guys to do it. But I really liked Roddy. I mean, he taught me one of the chokeholds that he used to do. And I don't know how many other times. I think we only broke one, maybe two. And the other reason why they broke a lot of the time was if, I'll take this for an example. I happen to have a sword in front of me right now. Actually, David, bring me a sword. I'll explain the reason why the thing broke. As you know, blades have three parts of them. When you take the handle off of a blade, it has okay. So you have the suva, which is here, right? So you take this off. This part of the blade would literally run into the handle. So you take the handle off, and this part of the blade would then have a shaft into it in here, in this area here, like this part. Well, the ones we originally used, it only went to about this far up. And a lot of the time what would end up happening was the handle would break off, not the blade. When we strengthened it and put it further through here, so now we're actually, if you're hitting it, it's not snapping off at a point. It's like taking a pencil, right? If I want to break the pencil at this end here, it's harder to do because I can't snap it. But if I bring it like this, the leverage I've got just snaps it very quickly, and that was what was happening with the blades themselves. They would be the handle would snap off like it did on the Beast Below when it snapped off, like it did on a bunch of others. This one was possibly the way that the parry happened. I think it was an up. I think I was parrying it like this instead of this way. I can't remember. I'll be totally honest with you. I can't remember, but you might go back and look at that episode. But that's when, you know, either I came in like this and it hit the side of the blade. That's what ends up happening a lot of the time. Is the contact between the two is not exactly on the edge to edge or back to back, and it hits the side. That's when the blade will break a lot quicker because it's a much more feeble weaker point when the blade's this way to you, hitting it this way, than if you're hitting it like this. Brad Bowling also asked, where is the brown coat from the Eiffel Tower fight against Callis? You want one? Tough. I don't know where that coat is. I mean, I actually have, I think I might have one of those coats in storage somewhere. But those coats, I mean, I wore a number of coats over the years. There was always the long coat to be able to hide the sword. And it kind of, I remember Bill Panzer saying to me, I would go, Bill, I'm wearing a short jacket. Where's the sword come from? He goes, the sword's there whenever you need it. Okay, so that kind of cuts the reality of doing what we're doing. But so I kind of kept going. You know, what I used to do, I used to take the blade and I used to put it under here like that, so I could walk around with it like this and talk and as if it, and then I could just bring it out from underneath the blade. You always wondered about that, didn't you? And so it's really underneath the arm like this, and so it would then come out this way. So that's why the longer coat was good, because the little one, it's sticking out this way. But Bill Panzer always kind of said, you know, it was always there when you needed it. But you know, somebody said, what props did I get to keep? Well, props-wise, I didn't keep very many. I mean, the one, there's always certain things that you keep. I have one of the swords. I have another sword which is pewter. It's a grey colour. And it's made into, it's a slightly heavier handle. I don't think it's actually fully pewter, but it's great gun grey metal. So it's a different blade, and it was handed to me and given to me by the entire crew and cast of Highlander. I can't remember which year, maybe year 4 perhaps, from when we were leaving Vancouver. And I've always kept that because, to me, you know, when you're working on a thing, I think that's part of the thing that's happening today, is that the balance between cast and crew, or the relationship between cast and crew, has disappeared. Sometimes, I know now with COVID, it's going to disappear even more. I've seen memorandums that basically state, and I think it's one of the SAG recommendations or requirements, that crew no longer talk to cast. They cannot go out and talk to any of the cast. You can't fraternize with the cast. Cast has to be over there. They have to be separated. You have to be separated from. And part of it for me was the crew was who made the show. The guys were there working all the time. They would make the show better because they did better sets, because the props were there on time, because the lighting they cared about the lighting and adjusting it in just the right way. And if you gave that you working together as a team in that way, you got a better result. I know today's become very technical when you've got big productions now that you can put the money to. I'm going to add a couple of guys. Okay, you guys, or your sole job is to take the water bottles from here to over there. I can pay you the money to do that. Your job is to make sure the cast comes to set on time. Your job is to make sure that the cast is called on time. Well, if you don't have the money to have separate people, you have one person doing that. You want to make sure that person's happy doing that job. So the connection between the cast and the crew is always important. So for them to give me that, sword was very important for me because I felt that I had a connection with the people that I was working with, and I enjoyed going to work. It's not worth it not enjoying going to work. James Gibson, did I ever get stage fright? Do you these days? Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, in some productions, stage fright's interesting because you get put into a situation sometimes. I've done this so long now, I don't think stage fright is the right thing, but uncertainty sometimes is more the thing. It's natural human nature to be uncertain, but what it is, what it ends up being is, am I good enough? Really what stage fright is. Because you're saying to yourself, I'm going to stand in front of somebody, I'm going to do something, and they're not going to like it. That's what stage fright is about. Oh my God, I'm going to do it wrong. If that element of you goes away, if you're like, I'm going to do this, good or bad, I'm going to give it my best, then in reality, you've just taken away a portion of that. So that's what I kind of try and get to these times. Does it work sometimes? If I'm on a huge production, sometimes it might get to me. Sometimes I might forget lines because I'm thinking I've got to do this and this and this and this. But, excuse me, I think it's a natural thing. But if we can get rid of that, it would help. Claudia Mellon. Hello, Claudia from Germany. How are you? What's my favorite country to go to and why? Oh, I've visited so many countries. I mean, I like going to France. I like the culture in France. It's Paris is a different thing. I love Paris. Don't get me wrong. I really do love Paris, but it's a different entity. And I think every country kind of has something interesting and special. There's certain things. I mean, when I went to Germany, some great stuff I saw in Germany. When I went to Belize, I loved the fact that it was not. I like going to countries that are not already formulated. Everything's got to be done in a certain way. You know, I can go down the road and I can sort of, you know, not have to worry about, you know, the infrastructure's not there. So there's the problem. But then, because the infrastructure's not there, you can ride down the road without 50 cars going by you. You can do certain things that you might not be able to do in a city. So, you know, I love going to Ireland as well because I love Ireland. I think Ireland's a beautiful country. It's just green, but it's wet all the time. Everybody knows that. I remember the first sword experience we did in Ireland, and we had a testimonial at the end of it, and we said, what surprised you about what happened today? And one guy said, the weather, because it was sunny. So, you know, it was, every place you go to has a plus and has a minus. The great part is to be able to travel everywhere and do that. You know, I love going to Thailand because I just, you know, the beaches are great, but, you know, I like the people. And Italy obviously has a special place in my heart because it's my family. And I love the history there as well. It's a fabulous country to go to. And Budapest is Hungary. I think, Claudia, you went to Budapest just recently because, but it's now become, they've changed all the architecture's done, and the restaurants are cool, and sitting out there in the summer's great. But I find sometimes the mentality is a bit closed off. So there's pluses and minuses everywhere, you know. I think this might be the last question. Claire Grace Phillips asked me, what is the most difficult weapon I've wielded? You know, the funny thing is, the one, it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was a claymore. I actually think, you know, a claymore is each weapon has its strengths and weaknesses in the sense that a claymore or a broadsword is more, it's not so much a finesse weapon, it's more a brutish type of weapon. The one I found more difficult was, I can't remember, it was the saber, one that has a very large hilt to it, or a bucket hilt, especially ones that have quillons out that far, because when you're doing this type of action like this, if you're going here, and you're used to doing the boken, which you can take here. If you do that with this, the quillons that stick out this far kind of hit you in the head. So that is something that you have to get used to. That's why the style is different, and that's why you have to get used to the style of it. I think that was probably the most difficult one, because I remember I did it a couple of times on Highlander, and I cracked myself in the head with it because I forget that these things are sticking out. So as I'm doing this, I'm going boink, or if I'm going like this, you know, you come up, you have to realize you're bringing your hands up. That's why a lot of the time when I'm talking about sword experience, I say bring it out, bring it over here, here or here, so that you're not coming close, because anytime anything's sticking close here, if you decide to go into a different style, you're going to get stuck in different areas, right? So that is. Okay, so I'm going to have one more question, and from Michael Kuprium. Are costumes still welcome at October XXP events? Mass, of course. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. If you come in costume, you'll be featured even more. You know, because obviously I want to, you know, you know, if I do Star Wars, I'd love some people to come in some of their Star Wars outfits. It'd be kind of fun. You know, you don't have to have it all day long, because the way we will work it is that I will be able to film some people doing one thing while the others get ready. So you'll have a little downtime, like 20 minutes downtime, to be able to get into your costume before I actually am able to go and shoot you. So that's really kind of the fun part of it. I would love people to be able to do that, and I'm going to try and section it. That's why, as I said, the sword experience has changed, where we don't have to just all go and shoot at one time. I said, okay, I'm going to take you guys for a minute. The rest of you work on your choreography or get ready, get dressed if you've got costumes to put on. So yes, it would be fun to do. So if you are thinking of doing that, cool. We have coming up, as I said, Pittsburgh, Tampa, Maryland, and David's writing on the thing. He says, watch and share, please, and slash of the day. Yeah, actually, the slash of the day, share it, because we're trying to get that out just as a fun thing. So make sure you share it as many times as possible. Tell people to do that. And tell them about the 3 events we've got coming up, because they might be, I'm not saying they are, but they might be the last events we have this year. Because I don't know if I can get somewhere. I was looking at Boston, or actually it was a great place I saw it in, what's the place next to Pennsylvania? Not Maryland. There was another.
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Thank you, David. There was a great place we had there, but I'm just afraid the weather will not allow us to do the event. But I'm still possibly looking at that. And maybe doing one in Los Angeles towards November time. Been working on that, but again, we're really trying to figure all of this out as we go, and you know, hopefully we still survive at the end of all of this. So I hope that you are able to run the gamut with us, and you know, keep online, and hope we get feedback from you as to what you like about things and what you don't like. You know, we constantly, the more feedback we get, the better we can actually deliver and adjust what we are putting out for people, as long as logistically it allows us in time to actually do it. So I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope this was informative, and think of some other questions as well. You know, I also do AP answers, where I will actually answer some things that we will put online so that everybody can see it. So if you have any other questions, send them in to us, and I'll do it during the month online under the AP Answers tag on social media. So if you haven't seen Slash of the Day, go to the Sword Experience site that is on our
Instagram, YouTube,
and YouTube posted places. So right now, check it out, and hope to see you at one of our events, or not hear from you online. Be well.